Looks like Alaska out there. With Resident Evil 8 on the way, I figured it was time to review my favorite entry in the franchise. As a survival horror purist, why is Resident Evil 7 my favorite entry? The more important question, why do you even care? Stick around. Side note, I will not be spoiling this game for you. Having said that, the game has been out for a while now, so I will be showing a couple bosses. I'm gonna show a few locations, but I'm not gonna show the endgame stuff. I think you should experience that on your own playthrough. This is a great game, and I think it's worth a playthrough of your own. However, the premise, the setup of the game, you play as Ethan Winters, new character to the Resident Evil franchise. You are on a quest to save your missing wife, who's recently sent you a video saying that she needs help. Sounds pretty fascinating if you ask me.
You were right.
As promised, the soft reboot Resi 7 returns to its survival horror roots that started the franchise off more than 20 years ago. I would argue Resident Evil 2 Remake is the scarier game, but the gameplay loop of 7 is just my preferred. But don't let that diminish the fact that this is an extremely tense game with intimidating enemies. There are plenty of structured scares, as well as organic ones that happen all the time. As if the enemies aren't scary enough, I was scraping by with just enough items to survive. I would leave boss battles with nothing. That's partly to do with how difficult the game is, by forcing you to either run or placing you in a state of severe scarcity. Finding 6 pistol rounds here, 1 healing herb there, and I really liked the balancing of the crafting. Do you make the ammo you desperately need, or do you craft the healing item to get you out of the red? This helps give your choices impact. Right out the gates, menus. Maneuvering your menu is brilliant. I think Resi 7 has my favorite inventory system, possibly ever. Responsive, fast, it remembers where you left the cursor, and that click noise. Combat is fun and faulty. As a survival game, I have a tough time complaining about the mechanics, as I've always thought the "it's slippery because it makes it scarier" feels like a reasonable argument. However, there are moments of getting caught in animation loops where I would get beaten to death without a chance to retaliate, just having to wait to die and load the last checkpoint. Melee combat is simplistic and indirect with informing the player they've done something right, but will tell you you've done something wrong. So you never really feel like you have a full understanding of the game, which does help keep things tense on multiple playthroughs. Gunplay feels fine. It feels intense to have a sludge monster erratically charging you while you're struggling to line up your headshots. Puzzles are fun, not very thought-provoking, but enjoyable. Exploration is incredible. Scavenging the locations is filled with suspense as one of the bakers hunts you down. Routes are also excellent, creating shortcuts, landmarks to help you remember what goes where, and traversing all of it feels great as your character controls smooth and just slow enough to fill you with dread when rounding every single corner. Fun fact, the most gruesome part in this game was cut from the Japanese release for being too graphic, too gory, and too gruesome.
I loved every minute of it.
I love the minimalist HUD. It's effective at immersing me and is never distracting when a small circle pops up over a drawer that I can inspect. The quick turn is useful despite having rarely used it. Meta knowledge is a blast with this game. Learning how to manipulate certain mechanics and optimizing situations is endlessly enjoyable, and attempting to kite the molded around still scares the piss out of me. Surround sound. So scary. If you have the option of playing the game in the dark with surround sound, you're in for a trip. It's an absolute blast to play the game this way. Everything sounds great. High quality sounds fill the space with a balanced audio. Music is used effectively to heighten the tension of many moments, or fill a safe space with a calming tune. Voice work is varied. Jack and Marguerite are fantastic, bringing frantic and unhinged performances to their characters. Unfortunately, we won't name names, but a few of the other characters just don't sound good. My other complaint is handguns. They sound awful. I'm not sure what they did to the audio, but the two main pistols sound like they used 380 rounds, which I know the first pistol is most likely a 9mm, and the other one you can find is in fact a 45 caliber. As for graphics, it's stunning. Some of the textures look photoreal. The materials all look crisp. The animations are smooth for the most part. It is pretty clear where an animation cycle ends and the next begins, enough to briefly take me out of each moment in a combat section. The locations are awesome. The old house is aesthetically perfect for a Resident Evil game to take place. All the family members look unique and are memorable, and the molded are terrifying. The bipedal molded are menacing, while the quadrupeds are fast and attack the arachnophobic part of my brain. I dig the found footage aspect too. Finding the VHS and learning puzzles and how stuff works is really cool. Having said that, once my brain realized how inconsistently this is used, there's maybe 4, and not even all of them remember it's found footage, and there's no mention of a camera or anything, it's immersion killing to see my character use both hands to move an object, only to have their invisible third arm hold the invisible camera that the bakers are okay with me using while being sent to a puzzle room. It looks cool though. Spoiler free, while Ethan's story is an anxiety-inducing cat and mouse tale of mystery, insanity, and intrigue, for me, it's unable to keep pace through the entirety of my time with it. The first few sections of the game are a spooky masterclass. When you first reach the house, that is so funny. When you first reach the house, Ethan's motivations, your encounters with each member of the family and their respective locations are phenomenal. But the final segments felt insincere and as if it dragged its feet to reach the conclusion. As much as I enjoy the story, I always dread getting to the boat and the mines. Even though the lore reaches its peak at this point, the gameplay devolves into fetch this, go here, and pseudo-boss gauntlets that just feel uninspired. Despite the boat segment being reminiscent to older titles, it just doesn't do it for me. Thankfully, the lore throughout the locations are varied and plenty as you learn bits about those who've died, times of events, light backstories. It's all done in a very believable way. I'm curious what my opinion would be of the game if I were able to play it in VR. Maybe one day. For me, Resident Evil 7 is an 8 out of 10. It's a hectic survival horror game that uses its 2 decades of knowledge to hone its core mechanics of scavenging, solving puzzles, and creating spooky yet memorable locations. I would love to give this a 9, but it's missing something I can't put into words, and the section in the last third of the game dies for me. Although, contrary to popular opinion, I love the final boss. This is the first game I attempted to speedrun too, with my runtime, my first runtime being 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 33 seconds. My OCD was optimized that day. That was so much fun. I just have a great time with Resident Evil 7, and I highly recommend it. As for the DLC, I'm not going to be talking about it. There is some free DLC where you play as Agent Redfield. It's fine. It's short, but it's fine. And as for the other DLC, have you seen it? It's so goofy. Like, it's fine. It's fine if you like it. I don't care. I'm not going to get it. I don't buy DLCs. I don't want them. And I really do think without getting any of the DLC, even the Redfield DLC, if you ignore all of it and you just have the base game, I really do believe that that is a complete and a whole experience that is worth your money. Yeah, Resident Evil 7, I love it, and I think you might love it too if you give it a chance. As a survival horror purist, I really do think it's a good one. Hopefully Resident Evil 8 is another good one. The location, the way it's stylized, it looks like it's gonna be. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. I don't know how to end. I don't know what I'm doing.